The silkworm races are classified on the basis of place of origin, volcanism and molting. Further, they are also classified based on their color and shape. The silkworm Bombyx mori has been domesticated and reared for over 2000 years. It is a monophagous insect and feeds only on mulberry leaves as their sole food. Hence, when the word silk is referred, it is usually considered as mulberry silk. Place of origin. Based on the place of origin, they are classified as Indian races, Japanese races, Chinese races and European races. Indian races. These Indian races are aboriginal in India and Southeast Asia. The larval stage is longer and they are robust against high temperature and humidity. The size of the cocoon and larvae is small. In many cases, the cocoon is spindle shaped and the cocoon color is green, yellow or golden yellow. The cocoon shell is thin with less shell percentage. They are mainly multi-voltines. Japanese races. These races are aboriginal in Japan. The larvae are robust. The cocoon is peanut shaped. The cocoon color is usually white but few are yellow in color. The ratio of double cocoon is more. The quality of the silk filament is inferior and it is thick and short than univoltines or bivoltines. Chinese races. These races are aboriginal in China. The larvae are robust against high temperature but weak against high humidity. The larvae are plain and active. They voraciously eat mulberry leaves and grow quickly. The cocoon shape is in many cases elliptical or spherical and spindle shaped in few cases. The cocoon color is white, golden yellow or beige. The cocoon filament is fine and ability to reel is good. They are univolted, bivolted and multivoltines too. European races. These races are aboriginal in Europe and Central Asia. Larval duration is long and they actively eat mulberry leaves. Larvae are weak against high temperature and high humidity. The cocoon size is big with a little constriction. The cocoon is cream or white in color. The length of the filament is more. The ratio of double cocoon is low. Reelability is also good. Coming to volcanism, the number of generations one organism takes in an year is called volcanism. Based on volcanism, silkworms are classified into univoltines, bivoltines and multi or polyvoltines. Univoltines. These races have only one generation in a year. The larval body is large. The cocoon weight, shell ratio and cocoon filament weight are high. The cocoon filament quality is good. Bivoltines. These races have 2 generations in a year. The silkworms are more uniform and strong. The cocoon weight, shell ratio and cocoon filament weight are less compared to univoltines but more compared to multivoltines. Larvae are robust compared to univoltines. Multivoltines. The life cycle is comparatively short. They have many generations in a year. Larvae are robust and can withstand high temperatures. The cocoon size is small. The cocoon weight, shell ratio and cocoon filament weight are less than bivoltines. Cocoon filament is fine. Molting. The process of shedding the larval skin as it attains growth and passes through different stages of its life cycle is called molting. Based on molting, silkworms are classified into trimolters, tetramolters, pentamolters, rarely bimolters and hexamolters, but tetramolters are mainly reared for commercial purposes. Now, cocoons are based on their shape and color. Based on the color of the cocoon, it is different in various races of silkworm. The color of the cocoon is only due to the coloration of sericin, and the cocoon turns white after decumming. The distribution and the type of the pigments depend on the silkworm races. The color of the shell may either be light or dark in outer and inner layers. The shade of the color varies depending on the influence of the temperature and humidity during rearing. Shape of the cocoon. Based on the shape of the cocoon, it is also considered as a racial character. To a certain extent, it is influenced by the type of mountages used. The shape of the cocoon can be classified as a constricted, elliptical, spherical and spindle shaped. The shape of the cocoon is a useful character for discriminating silkworm varieties. Cocoons with deep constriction with the middle or with a very pointed ends are unsuitable for reeling, as it results in more breakages, thus affecting reelability and increases waste percentage. Pointed cocoons tend to develop holes during the process of brushing, and such cocoons becomes useless for further reeling. The oval cocoons and cocoons with slight constrictions are very good for reeling. Cocoon produced in Karnataka, which are hybrid of pure Mysore of female parent and bivoltine or Sinichi of male parent, is mainly long oval cocoons with slight constriction. The size of the volume of the cocoon depends on the silkworm race. It is measured in terms of cocoons per liter. The number of cocoons per liter is about 90 to 120 in uni-bivoltine cocoons. It is considerably more with multivoltine races. The wide variation in the size of the cocoon in the same strain is noticed due to the rearing conditions. Size of the cocoon indicates the quantity of silk present in the cocoon. The temperature and humidity provided during incubation and rearing period, and the quality and the quantity of the mulberry leaves fed affect the size of the cocoon. It has also been observed that the filament length and filament denier depends on the size of the cocoon in the same strain. All important characters of cocoons affecting the reeling process performance vary according to the size of the cocoon in the same strain. The compactness of the cocoon shell depends on the silkworm race and the environmental conditions during rearing. Extremely loose cocoons are not suitable for the production of quality silk yarn. The extent of compactness indicates the shell texture, the hardness of the cocoon layer. The compactness of the cocoon depends on the silkworm race, sericin quality, sericin level, cocoon shell water absorption capacity, etc. The compactness represents the stiffness of the cocoon shell when it is pressed with fingers. Wrinkle is a surface character of the cocoon. Cocoon wrinkle is a granular surface formed due to the contraction of the silk filament during the cocoon spinning. The wrinkles are very clear on the outer layer and gradually reduce towards the middle layers and almost disappear at the innermost layer of the cocoon shell. Wrinkle is a character which depends on the silkworm race and is greatly influenced by the environmental conditions. The wrinkles are rough when cocoons are spun at high temperature and at low humidity. Extremely rough wrinkled cocoons are not suitable for reeling. India is the second largest producer of the mulberry silk, and uniquely India is the only country in the world that can claim 3 different varieties of non-mulberry silks. They are Tassar, Eri and Muga silk. The mulberry silk caterpillar belong to the order Lepidoptera winged insects, genus Bombyx mori, which can be cultivated indoors, produces over 90% of the world output of raw silk used commercially. There are other types of wild silkworms under the genus Saturnidae. Silk is crystalline, homogeneous in structure, hygroscopic in nature, light in weight, and is longest and the strongest of all the natural fibers. Soft, lustrous and hygienic silk also has been excellent affinity to the dyes. Silk does not catch fire so quickly as nylon and wool. It is elastic and has an elongation of 20%. Its breaking strength is about 4 grams per denier. Mulberry, the basic diet of the silk caterpillar, claims almost 60% in silk production cost. An ounce of silkworm eggs yields 25 to 30 kg of cocoon. The metamorphic process from egg to larvae to cocoon needs a ton of mulberry leaves. A mulberry land hectare can produce 15 to 50 metric tons of foliage depending on the agroclimatic conditions and the supply of nutrients. The course of preparing a silkworm diet through cultivation, harvesting, cutting and chopping of the leaves renders sericulture a highly labor absorbing occupation. Despite mechanization and better appliances, the operation is quite labor intensive compared to other agricultural crops. India is the only country in the world that can claim 3 different varieties of non-mulberry silks, Tassar, Eri and Muga. The share of the raw silk production is 9.5% of the total silk production. Non-mulberry production is an asset to the nation as it serves as a means for socio-economic needs of the millions of tribal inhabitations in rural India. Until now, wild silk reeling has remained as an exclusive tribal craft, and the practices employed are quite traditional and primitive. The Tassar silk. The famous handspun tassar, so popular in America and Europe, comes from the obscure remote forest areas of 5 Indian states, the Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. These are of 2 types discovered by Indians, the tropical tassar silkworm called the Antheria mylitta and the temperate tassar silkworm called the Antheria proli. These are univoltine, bivoltine or tetravoltine. The wild tassar silk cocoon hanging on a peduncle from a twig is mistaken as a fruit. The cocoons are seen in various colors of brown, grey, yellow and pink. The tassar cocoon, unlike other cocoons, has 3 layers of continuous filaments plus the inner finer strands of chrysalids. The first 2 layers are unique in that the outer layer is solidly cemented into a hard shell. It measures about 5 into 3 centimeters. The continuous inner filament is lustrous and varies in color from brown to various shades of tan to silver grey. It is hard to reel because the filaments do not readily form a thread. The cocoons need to be degummed or boiled for about 6 hours in a crude solution of soda and ash, after which they are semi-dried before they are taken up for reeling. The reeling is done on a simple hand spindle called natwa. A reeler can reel about 80 cocoons per day. The tribals have also developed methods of indigenous dyes made from herbs and fruits, but it is undyed yarn which is more in demand for export weaving. Eri silk. The second type of non-mulberry silk is known as eri silk. The eri silkworm is called Philosamia racinae and other species Philosamia cynthia are very popular for eri silks. The term eri in Assam is derived from the castor oil plant called veranda or arendi on which the silkworm feeds. The major food plants for the silkworm are castor plants Ricinus communis, which grow while on the banks of Brahmaputra and are also cultivated as field plants in other areas where the leaves are used for rearing eri worms and castor seeds for oil extraction. It is a perennial plant. The other food plants are Keseru, Heteropraxias fragrans, cassava, manihot utilissima, papaya carica papaya, champa, Lumeria octifolia and others. Worms fed on Keseru leaves spin smaller, more compact cocoons than those fed on castor. The rarer prefer the other plants only in an emergency or to economize during the early stages of rearing. The life cycle of eri worm from egg to egg takes about 6 weeks in summer and 12 weeks in winter. The tribals draw out the pupae from the cocoons by widening the natural opening from one end. Such cocoons are the cleanest and the best. The bulk of the cocoons are spun into yarn and woven into cloth by rearers for their own use. The yarn is dyed and woven on handloom like any other thread. Assam eri silk carries a reputation for softness, durability and is an ideal fabric for cold countries. The fabric possesses a natural cream color and a rare natural hand woven look. Both the twisting and spinning process are primitive, but the cloth retains the natural beauty of the fibers and makes an ideal material for fashion designers. Assam, Jagirod and Bihar Bhagalpur spun silk mills set up by the government utilize most of the cocoons and other silk wastes. Coming to Muga silk. Despite the upsurge of mill-made cloth, the old and respectable Assamese even today proudly wear native outwear and turbans made from Muga silk in Assam. Women love to wear silk wraps, mekhelas embroidered with arresting designs. Assam produces nearly 60 to 70 metric tons of Muga raw silk every year. The Muga worm Antheria assama is semi-domesticated and breeds several times a year. The Brahmaputra valley in Assam is also the home of the rare silk moth Antheria assama, producing golden yellow silk. The tribals inhabiting the regions have carried on the production of Muga silk as a tradition. Assam's Ahom kings favored Muga silk for court and ceremonial dress. There are few hundred families engaged in rearing Muga worms, reeling their cocoons and weaving the rich fabrics. Because of its high tensile strength, Muga silk thread is widely used for embroidery and in making finishing lines. The Muga worm is fed on the leaves of food plants, particularly on Som, Mechilus odoratissima and Sol, Teranthera monopetalia. A Som and Sol tree is considered fit for rearing of silkworms only after it is 4 years old. The Muga silkworm gives 5 breeds a year corresponding to the different seasons. They are Katia autumn crop, Charuva winter crop, Chetuva summer crop, Ahua early monsoon crop and Bhadia late monsoon crop. The bulk of the cocoons comes from the autumn crop, which is considered more prolific than other crops. The average production of the raw silk is 8 ounces from 100 Muga cocoons. The reeling contrivance is known as pir. The Muga cocoons are first cooked in alkaline solution for nearly an hour until the filament is easy to put out. The rearers themselves do much of the Muga reeling, but there is a class of people proficient in Muga reeling. Another offshoot of Muga silk is Mezankori silk, which is noted for its durability, luster and creamish white color. The Mezankori variety of silk is produced by Muga worms fed on the leaves of the Mezankori plant, which grows wild on the hills of Assam. Muga worms fed on this young plant produce cocoons of whitish yellow color. The color of the silk is, however, golden yellow if worms are reared on fully matured plants. The cocoon filament consists of 70 to 75% solid matter and the rest 25 to 30% is hollow. Thus, it absorbs plenty of air, salts, acids, alkalis and is easy to dye. Silk is porous, absorbs water molecules from the atmosphere and also when immersed in water. The diameter of the fabric swells up to 16 to 18%, while the weight goes up by 30 to 35%. The strong moisture and water absorbing capacity is an important property for clothing material. Many physical and mechanical properties undergo considerable changes due to absorption of humidity and water by the silk material. The standard rate of water content has been fixed at 11%. The humidity absorption of the cocoon filament is critical in preventing molding and also changes in the cocoon. The hygroscopic properties of raw silk are of great importance from the commercial point of view.